Talk about little Marco Rubio. He's a total disaster. He's a disaster. He's a nasty guy, said nasty things.
Remember that? The Trump-Rubio 2016 feud feels like a political lifetime ago. 9 years later, and the president has a new tune when speaking about his Secretary of State and acting national security advisor. And he'll probably have a few more jobs on his plate by next week. Take a listen.
Marco Rubio, unbelievable. Unbelievable, Marco. When I have a problem, I call up Marco. He gets it solved.
With me now is Chuck Rocha, CBS News political contributor and former senior advisor on Senator Bernie Sanders' presidential campaigns, and Rina Shah, who served as a senior advisor to multiple Republican members of Congress. Let's talk, guys, about the big turnaround in this relationship. Marco Rubio is now President Trump's favorite person.
Leave it to Marco Rubio and the only Latino in this organization to have 5 jobs over at the White House. It's just like a Latino. We got to have 2 or 3 jobs. But look, I think that anything's up with this guy. Like anybody, like Marco Rubio, say what you want to about Marco. But Marco's qualified. Marco got 98 votes in the Senate because he's qualified to do the job. But how many jobs do you get before you start slacking off? My papa used to say, you can do a whole lot of stuff halfway or do a couple things really good. And I'm worried that he has too many jobs.
Rina, these are 2 very hefty jobs. Secretary of State, massive, important. National Security Advisor, this is the person who's supposed to be right there next to the president all day long, advising him on matters of national security. Obviously, Secretary of State Rubio can't be at the State Department and at the White House at the same time.
Well, I think Rubio's rise here is what's most interesting to me. And what it reflects is his ability to blend that populist energy that Trump and his ilk have with some serious foreign policy leadership. And I think that's what everybody in the White House is seeing, and that's what he's going to now be under the pressure to display. He's been seen in the recent weeks as somebody who can unify the party, but in general, he's going to have a very tall order just this week of trying to win over very skeptical hardliners, the same skeptical hardliners that I think drove out Mike Waltz.
What does Mike Waltz's departure tell you about, first of all, the president's demand for loyalty in the second term, and about the influence of people like Laura Loomer, a right-wing activist who is not part of this administration, but seems to be able to tell the president who should stay and who should go?
It's outsized, and it almost tracks with who Trump is in this era. He doesn't want to listen to very capable advisors most hours of the day. But then he pivots and does things like this, says, Rubio, you're my guy. I need you to be here. And he's the right man for the moment, because if you look at his approval ratings with Republicans, that's gone up as well. The stat from Gallup says that in 2024, it reached 68%. That's so different than 2016 when it sat at something like 52%. So Rubio went from being little Marco almost a decade ago to being seen as big Marco in the moment. And I just think it just reflects how badly real, serious foreign policy leaders are needed in this White House.
Poor Walz. He gave up a safe congressional seats in Florida, in Daytona Beach, where he could be on the beach right now, but he's having to deal with all this. We all knew after the Signal scandal that what it was is that something was going to happen. But Donald Trump, being true to Donald Trump, was like, look, if I get rid of this guy, I'm going to look weak. So he smartly moves him over to the place in the UN. And I think that's why he's there. What we're looking for now is like, who's actually going to come in? Marco Rubio can't keep all these jobs. Somebody's going to come in.
Actually, Politico just reported a short time ago that the White House wants to keep him in both roles for the foreseeable future.
To your point about these are really important jobs, and being in 2 places at one time, like, I ain't never been a big Marco Rubio fan. I do think he is qualified to do his job, and he's had quite a tenure in the Senate, but still, they should have more folks over there helping them.
But we know what this White House wants to do every day of the week, and that's project strength and unity. And what they think that Rubio can do is show that in this role as Secretary of State, and now obviously with national security being one of the foremost issues, I think they're really trusting him to be the adult in the room, because if you look around, there are a lot of yes men, and there are experienced people in this White House, but not as experienced as Senator Rubio. And so he's the man for the moment.
And yet the person who is going to the Middle East and who is going to Russia and trying to cut these major deals is not Marco Rubio. It is Steve Witkoff, a real estate investor. And he is not going as envoys typically would with a large, experienced staff. He's going by himself. He's even using interpreters provided by other countries,
right.
not his own U.S. interpreters. What is going on there?
Highly unusual, but not, again, different from what we know of Donald Trump, the private citizen. We all remember Michael Cohen, the lawyer turned fixer. This is what Witkoff is. He's already been entrusted to get stuff done. He's shown results out of the gate, and that's why he didn't want the job that Michael Waltz just left. Because, I mean, it was well reported that Witkoff was asked, but didn't want it. And so he'd rather be this operative type, and that is just so unusual in modern presidential history.
Loyalty is very important to this president. I'll give you that. And I give him credit for, sticking by his guns. But I think the polls tell us that the American people are not falling for all of it, whether they're falling for it or whether they're trusting him. The polls don't lie. One poll will lie, but not one poll after another. I think the American people are kind of frustrated with everything they see out of this White House.
We don't have a ton of time left, but I want to ask you about the fact that two bold-faced Democratic names, Gina Raimondo and Annie Beshear, both out of the blue this week said, I might be interested in running for president in 2028. What was it about this week that suddenly prompted them to do that? Or is it just that they saw Pete Buttigieg with a beard on a popular podcast? They said, ooh, I better get my name out there.
Look, I'm one of the very few people in this country who's actually ran a presidential campaign, and things have really changed with social media, where it's starting earlier than ever before, mainly because you have to build a base of people a la Donald Trump, a la Bernie Sanders or AOC, to raise the money you really need, which we're so dependent on low-dollar fundraisers, online givers. So you have to get out there, you start floating the ideas, and more people out there you're going to see jump in, because there's going to be no less than 20, 30, 40 people running for president of the United States.
People.
Absolutely. It's going to be an all-out hiring fair for political consultants like me.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you so much.
What can I say other than that would be a Republican dream to see so many people line up? Because I remember 2016 when we said Donald Trump couldn't do it. Actually, 2015 is when we started saying it. And he had this stacked field. And I think the Democrats need to start to look at their bench of really capable younger folks. And not to be ageist, but gosh, nobody wants Rahm Emanuel and nobody wants a Harris repeat. So please start looking at some cool, young, capable names.
We could talk about this all night, but I have to close it there. So Rina Shah and Chuck Rocha, thank you so much and have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.